Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. At Bigfoot Society, you've got the privilege of talking to Mr. Dave McCulla today. He is an individual from the great state of Massachusetts, and it is a pleasure to have him on the show. Listeners will know in the past that I've referenced that I am originally from Massachusetts, specifically the Franklin County Northfield area, and I love it when I have people from that state on the show. It is a real privilege. So, Dave, a few things about yourself I'd like to share so listeners know some of your background. You've been a Bigfoot investigator for about 20 years, and you're involved with helping both the BFRO and the Squatchachusetts group. So welcome to the show, Dave. How's it going, man?
It's going good, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
it's really mindful.
Absolutely. Oh man, it's fun. We were talking about the Boston accent before we started, and I never got that because I lived out in Western Mass where we have dragons instead of accents. But I kind of wish I had it a little bit. It's a badge of honor to wear, I think. But
that's funny to say that. The guy that started Squatchachusetts is from Western Mass, and he sounds nothing like me. So when we go places, people pick that right off. Wait, aren't you both guys from Massachusetts? And it's pretty funny.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're only less than 2 hours away from each other, but talk totally different.
It's crazy, man. It's like, there'll be a little bit of inside baseball for Massachusetts people in this one, but, it's like the state, I lived about in the middle up in the north, and you go 2.5 hours west, you're down by Great Barrington. You go 2.5 hours east, and you can be up in the North Shore area. But it's just, it's a really interesting state for diversity. But, Dave, whenever I have researchers, investigators on the show, I love to start out with, of course, the question, which is, what got you into this field to begin with? What got you into the Bigfoot community?
Well, I always had a big interest in like the older shows. Growing up in the 70s, it was In Search Of, the mystery shows. I was more into UFOs, and then I just got the bug with all the topics, actually. But then I want to say in the 90s, the explosion of the internet, with being able to read sighting reports and information that was out there, databases, seeing that there was really something, then I really got the bug. And like you said, 20 years ago, I went on an expedition for the BFRO in Whitehall, New York, which kind of put Bigfoot on the map on the East Coast. And I never realized it was an East Coast phenomena as big as it is. And then just by, digging into some books and stories, I really learned how it's really all over the country. It's not just the West Coast. So I was able to really get involved and go out around here without having to travel for it. Realizing that, wow, every state in New England has had a long history of it, and that I didn't have to go as far. Because at first, when I first went to New York, I started going out that way, or, up into Vermont, and then just seeing that Massachusetts itself has an old history of it, and just been with it ever since.
That's fascinating. Was there anything that happened during that first outing you had that was memorable in Whitehall?
Not not physically seeing anything as far as Bigfoot wise, but I did see some orbs. We did have some odd sounds through the night in the woods, but it just got my met a lot of great people from it, and still friends with a lot of them. Have met up over the years, just kind of like reunion camping, and but Bigfoot related, no, nothing really happened then on that expedition.
Gotcha. Was there a time when you realized that, hey, okay, there is something going on here in Massachusetts, and you yourself got involved with looking into it?
Yeah, going out with a few people and hearing wood knocks, and then hearing a really good vocalization in an area, it was Western Mass out in the Berkshires Mountains, where we just knew on the ride in, it's 10 minutes in on one road, that there was no vehicles, no homes, no. So you can kind of rule out, like, people out in the woods partying or anything like that. So it was kind of convincing there. And since then, like over 20 years, though, I've only had, I'd say, 4 good vocalizations and 1 really good tree snap that was at close range. And not a big tree, but a sapling, but totally snapped and slammed into the ground pretty good. Was probably, I'm still waiting for that clear sighting. No sighting yet, but a lot of strange stuff. We've had a couple images on thermal that, again, it's a blob, but it's something big and giving out some heat. So, you get a good idea of it, but until you get that really hardcore proof that this is what made it, like, you can think what it is. And I think, and I know what it was, but no, not that clear daylight, absolute visual. I'm still waiting for that.
Gotcha. Something I think we should address probably right off the bat, because there's people that listen to this really all over the world, and definitely all over the U.S. And the viewpoint of Massachusetts from that side would be, I think a lot of it is going to be like, oh, the whole state is Boston. So when you get people that are like, okay, there's no way there's going to be Bigfoot in Massachusetts, it's just, Boston and the Freedom Trail and Fenway Park and all that. How do you respond to that?
I'd say, like you were saying earlier, it's quite diverse. Starting out in Western Mass on the New York side, the Appalachian Mountain Range goes right up to Massachusetts. So there's a lot of hills and mountainous regions out that way. But as you go across the state, elevation goes down more into rolling hills and farms, all the way to, the East Coast, where I'm not sure if you heard of Bridgewater Triangle. It's more from rolling hills down basically to, the ocean, Cape Cod, where it's more marshy and, very low elevation, swamp, that whole probably quarter chunk of the eastern part of the state. So it's very different from Western Mass, where it's very wooded and very, very hilly and pretty good terrain, down to like marshland and cranberry bogs and basically right to the coast. And there's been a lot of action in the last 2 years down that way. It's Southeast Mass.
Oh, really? So you're talking about like down by the Bridgewater Triangle?
Yeah, I was actually down there last week. Some people filmed a good foot track they had in the snow. It's still being looked at, but I'm pretty convinced of what it is. It was 17 inches, 5 toes. It looks like it slipped, so on the cast, it looks like it was cast by spray foam. The person that found it was totally new to it, didn't know what to do, and so they covered it and then sprayed. They actually sprayed it with Flex Seal, which is black, so you could really see the outline and the detail, because it was tough to see in the snow. It was still pretty, I want to say 2 or 3 inches of snow. So you could see it, but you really couldn't really see the detail until they kind of highlighted it with black and then spray foamed it. And but that was their first experience about it. They knew nothing about it. Someone contacted us, and there's been other sightings in that general area over the last 5 or 6 years. It's actually a wildlife management area that's probably a good 10 miles away from the coast. It's where it really starts turning from swamp and bogs into woods. It's still wooded, but mostly swampy. And these people are on 200 acres of land of bogs and marsh. And so that was pretty, that was like right from last week. So that's as really fresh as it gets. And then there's last year, there was a couple good audio recordings taken out of the same area. Rochester, Mass. One is which I sent. I don't know if you might play it later on, but yeah, it's pretty hot area, and it's had a long history going back to, as far as the earliest Native Americans in that area. In fact, the Hockomock Swamp, which is the swamp in the triangle, it actually means a place of where spirits dwell. It's an Indian word. But it's a very interesting place, not just Bigfoot stuff. It has a lot of UFO activity, orbs. Very haunted because it's colonial, all the Indian wars, which is, what a lot of people down that way think it's all from is Bigfoot's just the tip of the iceberg. But it's good to have friends down there. Like, I'm an hour and a half away. So I'm more north of Boston, where I'm more in the city. So to get to these areas where it's nice to get away, so I like getting a call to somewhere to go, reason to get down there. There's a lot of stuff down that way. It's totally different as far as elevation. There's no mountains, no hills, but it's just very dense, especially when the foliage comes in, when the spring and summer come in. It's very thick and thorny, and a lot of areas that you can get into now, like in a few months, you won't even be able to get near. I mean, you can get pretty close, but you really need to bushwhack your way in there. That's why I think when the weather's nice is when picks up, is when people hear or see stuff.
I think right now might be a good time, because you sent that sound over. We could definitely play that. And I just want to first comment, you sent the video of that footprint over, which is a very interesting video. Was that was a trackway as well, or was just a single track?
Yeah. That was a single track. There was other scuff marks on the ground, and they were all in a straight line. But that one, it was a part of the trail that went behind a tree where it was, the area was mostly no snow, but there was that one little patch. I don't know if you can see it in the video where she raises the camera, it's just all dirt. And so it was the very last patch of snow next to the shade. I don't know, it just got lucky that thing happened to pass through. Could have been at night where it didn't see the snow, but you can actually see where it skidded a little, and the hills definitely elongated. You can see, it looks like a mid-tassel break or a ridge in the middle of it. But if the people on your show can see that, I after I sent it, I didn't even realize that it's a phone. You were going to be doing a phone interview, but if you were able to see that, that's good. That was just last week, like I said.
Yeah, and I don't know if I can get in touch with the person who filmed the video. I might try to get the okay to put it on the YouTube version of the interview. I'll have to do some work on that on the side, but I think that would be kind of cool for people to see that. But we can talk about that later. But
I could message her today and check that out for you.
Perfect.
I think she'd be. You're right. I'd rather just get the okay, and
yeah,
she should be fine with it.
Yeah, absolutely. The audio that you also sent, I'm going to go ahead and play that now, and then maybe if there's any commentary that you could provide after that, and then we could focus on that for a bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cue that up here. All right, that's interesting.
It is. Yeah, that's a great call. That was from last year. I was contacted. A gentleman was woken up through the night, probably 3 a.m, and he could hear this thing going off. It woke him right out of bed, and he just stuck his phone out the door, and he just happened to catch the end of that. But he said it was going off for like a minute before he ran down and didn't know what the heck to do, and figured it's going to stop, like, what the heck is that? So he finally ran down and just held his phone out the door, but he wasn't going outside for sure. And that is in Rochester, Mass. That's just south. That's in the Bridgewater Triangle, towards the bottom of it. And they talked to his neighbors over the next couple days just to see if they heard anything. They said they never heard nothing, but they thought it was weird. They found a dead deer in the yard with a couple legs torn off it. One leg was like flung across the yard and not gone or anything. That's what was strange about it. It was just killed, and it wasn't taken to eating. So whatever did it, it wasn't like a normal predator in the area. If they were going to kill a deer to take it or eat it, it was like just still there with a couple legs missing. So that was strange. And like I said, that was about a quarter mile away from the where the guy recorded it. So that is being watched too. And that's all farms too. That's a pretty desolate town.
Wow. I've done this for a few years, and if you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to ask. I was like, man, I bet that deer had its legs ripped off. Unfortunately, that is a thing that you hear more often than not in these reports that you get from all over the U.S.
Yeah, it's interesting that it actually. I sent it off. I'm friends with Scott Nelson. He's a cryptolinguist, and he was saying that it's something that should definitely not be in Massachusetts. Whatever it is, he goes, but it's definitely a primate, and it's definitely interesting. He goes, I can't say what it was. I didn't see it. He goes, but that's something I would say shouldn't be prowling around Massachusetts. That was his assessment of it.
Yeah, that's cool that you were able to have that connection with him, and what a cool thing that he was able to give us thoughts on it. You were talking about going out into Western Mass earlier. So
yeah,
when your definition of Western Mass, I know there's a few. Are you talking like the area where you've got like Granby and you're not to Springfield yet, or are you going past out to like Great Barrington and Bear Mountain and all that good stuff?
October Mountain.
Yeah,
been out there. Granby. Granby is actually my good friend who started Squatch. They meet up there and then head out. It's October Mountain. There's a couple towns around there with a long history of. And he's actually had a sighting too. It was in Savoy State Park.
Yeah.
So we've been out that way a lot. I've had couple of BFRO expeditions out there where one of them, there was a sighting, 6 people saw it, and they got a couple really good tracks out of there, Savoy.
No, that area is just really interesting. I've talked to an individual that had a really intense sighting in that area. I've talked to a Native American spiritual leader that they were doing a a ceremony around the Mount Washington area down in the corner, and they had some activity during their ceremony where they had a sighting. It's just that whole western side of the state. But you get a little closer to Springfield, and then you've got actually right next to Westfield, you've got the Cobble Mountain. You've got some sightings over there, right?
Yep, a lot out that area. In fact, there'll be a festival this year. Cobble Mountain's having a June Bigfoot festival. Not to give a cheap plug, but it's funny to say Cobble Mountain. Yeah, there's been a long history out there, and into Connecticut, and to the left into New York. A lot of stuff on the New York side of that part of the state. The Kinderhook creature. There's a couple books. There's a lot of stuff out that way. That's not far into New York. Vermont. We've had people from Vermont in the northwest corner of Mass seeing something. It's pretty, like I said, it's a lot more mountainous than it is on the east side. And it's nice to get out that way and see. It's like it's two totally different environments.
It really is. Yeah, I mean, you people don't get it unless you go for a ride on Route 2 through North Adams and you go over to New York. Then you're going to realize how crazy it is in Western Mass. It is a whole different world up there, and man, it's just wild driving that road.
It is. Yeah, there's a couple hairpin turns.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, dude, yeah, we just did that a few years ago. But so are you involved with that festival at all down by Cobble Mountain? I've heard a little bit about it.
Actually, I'll be speaking. They asked me to speak. Should be a fun time. June 7th, I believe, weekend. That's at Russell. It's actually in Russell, Mass.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I'll get the info for that and make sure that the link is in the show notes. I want to definitely help. Is that a first year festival too?
It is. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
man.
first annual. It's the Cobble Mountain Critter Festival, I believe it's called.
That's awesome. And listeners, if you might remember a while back, I had a gentleman on named Ernie, and he had the incident with the Bigfoot that was doing a form of sign language. That's the same area, more or less. So that's for context as well. We were talking about Granby earlier. I've had some interesting reach outs. I had a gentleman who has some pretty wild activity in the Granby area going on. I've tried to get him on the show, but we're going back and forth a little bit. And then I had another individual that had a sighting over by the Quabbin Reservoir. Have you ever experienced or heard anything going on in that area, the Quabbin?
We've investigated a few cases around that. And we had a woman saw a white one, I want to say 4 years ago. A woman and her husband, both credible people, teachers. They were both school teachers. And I stood in where they saw it, and we investigated it. And they said it was like 8 feet tall, but it was white. And there's been other incidents where my partner who runs Squatchachusetts, he's pretty well connected in that area. And he knows a few wardens that have sent him pictures in that, but they don't talk about it. And then they're kind of like sworn to secrecy. They acknowledge it, but tongue in cheek. So they don't totally say, oh yeah, they have, but they've sent him a couple pictures where there was pretty interesting tracks in the dirt. And then they wipe them out and like, oh, nothing to see here. And then there was one good case a few years ago where his friend, she was doing the rounds before it got dark at night. This was during the summer. So it was pretty, 8 o'clock or so. And as she was escorting them out, she rode them to the gate, and it was dark by then. And one of the people left their phone on the rock where they were sitting by the reservoir. So she had them stay there, and she's like, I'm going to have to go there and get it. So she goes to get it, and as she's looking in the area where they were sitting, she sees the phone, and she's getting it. All of a sudden, a rock comes flying into the water. And so she was freaked out because she knew she just escorted everybody out of here. And if there's someone in there, so she's shining a light around, couldn't see anything, and then his twig snapping, and just basically hightailed it back to her truck and back out. So she she called my friend that night and told him all about it. That she was pretty wound up about it too. That I know they're there. So she got into it and asking all about, what we use, or with therm some nights. So she knows they're around. The Quabbins had both sides of it, actually. Have had a lot of activity. In fact, the last experience I had was 2019, was the tree snap I was talking about earlier. That was on the east side of the Quabbin. And that was just a few of us hanging out, doing stuff. Nothing, pretty quiet night, actually. And just before we were leaving, I heard a rustle. We would always say, like, it's a squirrel, or it's nothing. We just heard, like, a twig snap. So I yelled, hey, like, almost like, hey. And this thing just, you could hear, like, the bending in it, and it just snapped and hit the ground. And that was pretty intense. That was pretty, when you don't expect it, We were, like I said, we were just heading out. And, hey, I think I startled whatever it was. But in my opinion, something was watching us. We were there all night trying to draw something, nothing. But then when we were leaving, sure enough, man, just say thank you. Thank you for the sign. That was like the end of it. Nothing came after that. We looked and looked, nothing. We actually had a therm within a couple minutes, like fired up and right on it. And there's nothing there at all. So again, that just a mystery of, something was there, something did that. And then there's nothing. That's happened a couple times over the years, that something within earshot and eye shot, and you get a therm right on it, and there's just nothing around. So it's either, hiding behind a tree, ducking behind something, or that's happened a few times.
That is just, it's one of the weirdest things, because you think about it with a thermal. I mean, not to show up on thermal, that really takes something, because, I mean, the heat, if it's something there, right, it should show up, right?
Right, and they have been caught on thermal. That's why is it like, could have taken off. Like, then now you're like, what happened to it? Something did that. And that happened to us once in New Hampshire I was with Alexander Petikoff.
Oh, yeah.
And same thing, and a few guys. And a snap, tree comes down, and there's nothing there. Very bizarre.
Extremely bizarre. In case listeners I want to provide a little bit of context to the Quabbin real quick. So people need to realize how big it actually is. I think I read once that the length of it is about like 18, 20 miles long. Like, it is a just massive wildlife area and body of water. It's perfect for these guys to be around.
Yeah, and it's well protected too. So all around it, on whatever town it's in, is heavily protected. Most places you can't get in once it's dark out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because that's why for the whole eastern part of the state in Boston. Very, like, you can't, even regulations when it's nice out, like, you can only use their boats. You couldn't even bring your own kayak in, and nothing invasive. A lot of studies go on out there, but from what I understand, fishing-wise, it's great for fishing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it's loaded with fishermen once it's open.
So, since I have you on, and you're the closest that Okay, so here's my goal. I've tried for years. My goal is one day to talk to someone that has knowledge about Bigfoot in the northern Franklin County area, which is like Northfield or Gill or Greenfield, Warwick, all that good stuff. I'm kind of saying that right now in case listeners are out there listening to Massachusetts episode and be like, oh yeah, I have that. Well, reach out to me, guys, please. bigfootsociety@gmail.com. But me saying those town names, does that jog anything in your memory? Like, oh yeah, I might have heard something from that area.
No, but I wouldn't doubt it. Just looking at it on the maps and the aerial views of it, it's heavily wooded. A lot of steep hills, ponds. I wouldn't doubt at all any of those towns. I have done a couple hikes in Warwick.
Mm-hmm.
Very small towns too. A lot of those towns out there, very low population. So there's not a lot of, as it goes, it thins out. Like if you were going away from Springfield or Worcester or Boston, like the big cities, once you get a half hour outside of those, it's very low populated towns. But I wouldn't doubt it all around Gill. Like those are heavily. You said you were from Northfield?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's like right in the house. Very wooded.
Yeah, I had no idea then when I was living there how I was so close to the Marlboro monkey sightings of southern New Hampshire. I was like, man, I used to drive up there all the time. I had no idea. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one.
Not the stories, but the town Marlboro, New Hampshire.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. And like sightings on Mount Monadnock. I've had individuals reach out off record that they've had sightings on the actual mountain hiking up there, which is very crazy to think about because that's, it's the second most climbed mountain in the world behind Mount Fuji, from what I remember. But
yeah, that's somewhere. It's very well used.
Absolutely. Thinking of all the different things you've heard about this state, is there perhaps one that you've heard where you were like, man, it really happened there and it just kind of surprised you?
There was one, not in Mass. There was one recent, but it was just over the border. I want to say in Maine. And I want to say just within the last couple of weeks. And it's right along the coast, actually. So that was a surprise. And some of the ones down in southeast Mass were very, very close to the coast. But then I thought about it too, but the West Coast, they're right on the coast also. So why wouldn't they, they don't need the heavy mountainous, because like I said, it's very low elevation. But there's been stuff there. That was a surprise too. Like stuff where you wouldn't expect now. It's got to be a mountain. It's got to be heavily wooded. But, even like other towns a half hour from Boston, these other places, they're only less than an hour away. That sound recording, that was, they're small towns when you get down to Rochester, but when you think of it, you're not far from a big city. So you don't have to get far as, I don't know, just my opinion. They're closer than you think to the big cities.
It's wild to think about. And, I've mentioned this in other episodes, but, a lot of people are like, it's too close to it's not too close to the big cities, and like the cities keep growing. And so it keeps taking over habitat slowly. And I don't think it's out of the, it's not too crazy to say that it could be happening within like half an hour of these big cities for sure.
Right. And even if they're not living there, at least they're passing through. They're leaving signs that they pass through there on occasion. And I think that's why they stay on the move, so they're not just staying in one spot. That's when I think it'd be easy to find them. But maybe stay for a few days, move on. Well, overnight, couple overnights and leave. And just leave little signs here and there. But when I first got into this, I'm like, oh, they're not in Massachusetts. Then until you start learning about it and reading about it, and then holy mackerel, they're in New York, and then they're getting closer, and then you realize they're in every state. I started looking up every state. Maine has a long history. New Hampshire, Vermont, all in New England, actually. All the indigenous tribes had names for it, just like they do out west. It's it was an eye opener, and then to think they're in Massachusetts. And my friend that started Squatchachusetts, that's how he got into it. He had a sighting in Savoy. That's how we ended up with started investigating Savoy. He was a park ranger at the time, and I actually saw two, a big one and a small one. So that was an eye opener. Also, he's went from, that's what it is with this thing. A lot of people go from non-believers, hardcore skeptics till you see something, or someone you know sees something.
The main report, are you referring to the one that was just released by the BFRO with the footprints on it?
The main one?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was, I want to say last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, very, very recent. That was one of my buddies out here in Iowa, Ontario Richardson. She did the work on that, and I was surprised when I read that one. It was wild. But
yeah, because that I think it was even in the post that it's only a half hour, 40 minutes from Boston. That's not far, and it's not far from the coast.
That's fun.
So yeah, it just adds to the fact that you really don't need to be far away and up in the mountains and out in the wilderness. That's pretty common area.
Dave, I've got just a few more questions for you. I just want to say thank you for you spending some of your time with us this afternoon. But, since you've been able to see so many reports from Massachusetts over the years, have you noticed that there seems to be a leaning towards what the witness saw looked more humanoid or more ape-like?
I think mostly man, look more like a man, a person. I've had a few people tell me that. I did a good case that's in the BFRO database in Hanson, Mass. And he said it'll just look like a big man running down the hill onto the road. Never really had anyone tell me a monkey or ape or just a big, hairy guy or man. One person told me he looked like a man in a ghillie suit, like a hunter coming out of the woods. But no monkeys or apes.
That's extremely interesting. That kind of lines up with what I've gotten as well. I would say the one offshoot of that is I had one individual. It was South Quabbin as he was driving across, and what he saw looked like a big orangutan, which I thought was really unique for that state, because I think most of the people I've heard from are that the big kind of human or big man, covered in.
You think maybe because of the color, orangutan, red, brownish, was that the color?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. That is that probably would explain it there as well. Last thing that I will ask you, Dave, is just curious if someone was going to go out and try to maybe check out an area to try to have some sort of Bigfoot interaction. Do you have any advice as what might be the best way for them to do that?
Well, my view on it in the last couple of years has changed as far as go out and listen and just be quiet, become part of the woods. Earlier on, we used to, get out in a lot of gear and all this and that. We really don't take a lot out now. And now we listen when we get out of the car. everyone's like slamming the doors and putting their stuff on, talking. A lot of times that's when we've heard stuff. So there's been a couple times last year we get out of the car nice and quiet, and you might hear that one knock, and it's just my opinion that it's a heads up to a lot of people think they leave someone at the entry points to these recreation areas where it's just a one knock, almost like the humans are here. And yeah, I don't, not as much hooting and howling, banging on trees and trying to trap them or sneak up on them, because I don't think that's ever going to happen. They know you're there when you get there. They're highly intelligent beyond, like I said, you're never going to sneak up on one. I think there'd be better pictures or better film if they were there, catch them off guard. And I think, too, a lot of the sightings are, this is just my opinion also, but I think a lot of them are intentional, that it's not an accident, They want to be seen. They say if you see one, you're almost blessed or you're very fortunate. But I would just say, like, get out nice and quiet, be yourself. Don't go rapping on trees, Maybe a return knock if you did hear one, but I don't initiate that stuff. Now I just go out and listen and try to become part of the woods, and because anything else out there is going to know you're around. Animals, they hear from a mile away. Bears going to smell you from a mile away. So I think your best bet is go out and be yourself. Keep your eyes open, but go what you got. And I don't think they have bad intent either. I think they're just curious and want to check out what you're up to. Make sure you're not bad for them. Just opinions.
I think that's great advice, though. I'm pretty close to how you're saying it as well. It's just kind of be out there. But Dave, it has been just a great conversation with you. Thank you for sharing your years of knowledge about Bigfoot in the state of Massachusetts. Is there anything here at the end that if people wanted to contact you about Squatchachusetts or Massachusetts Bigfoot, is there a way that's best for them to do that?
I think just on Facebook. Either friend me or you can Squatchachusetts on Facebook. We're out there. We take people out. Anyone can come out. But that's really it. I don't have a website. Don't have any of that. Pretty low key. Just do my own thing, But I do stuff with other people. We go out. We do doing a few conferences coming up this year. The past few years, been asked to speak. If you can understand the Boston dialect, you can.
I think we'll be good. It's awesome. Right. So you'll be at Cobble Mountain, and then what other festivals or conferences are you doing?
Cobble Mountain's June 7th. June 21 and 22, it'll be the Charming Fair Farm in Candia, New Hampshire. July 26th, I'll be doing the Paranormal Truth Seekers Expo. That's in Nashua, New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And September 6th and 7th, the Greater New England UFO Conference. That's on Leominster, Mass.
Well, very nice. So there's a few ways you can meet Dave if you'd like to this coming year. So check those out. But Dave McCulla, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great. It was a great chat with you, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Just want to take a few minutes to say thank you to you, all my listeners, for listening to the podcast. Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's a list. The Subtle Lake area of Oregon, Rainbow, Oregon, McKinsey Bridge area, Sweet Home, pretty much that entire area, the north part, if you get what I mean. I'll see you back next time, listeners. Sasquatch Summerfest this year, July 11th through the 12th. It's going to be fantastic. July 11th through 12th in Green Waters Park in Oak Ridge, Oregon. And listeners, if you're going to go, you can get a 2-day ticket for the cost of one. If you use the code BFS, like Bigfoot Society, but BFS, and it'll get you some off your cost. Priscilla was nice enough to provide that for my listeners. So there you go. I look forward to seeing you there. So make sure you head over to www.sasquatchsummerfest.com and pick up your tickets today.
Those are toes. Like, those look like my toes.
I know. Well, can you move out of the light, please, bud? You're still in the light. You're still in the light. Can you come this way? Thank you. All right, so when we walked down on this, there were, and there clearly are still, 1 toe, 2 toe, 3 toe, 4 toe, 5 toe. So we sprayed some stuff in here. Also, this section right here, if you can see it, is a little hump, and that's the arch. So honestly, I'm suspecting that like the footprint actually goes, you can see this or not, footprint probably goes to like here, from here forward. And then, I mean, this could just be melting or something, like this back half is what I'm suspecting. But, hold on a second. I'm going to show you with a tape measure. Even if we went from there to presumably like the small portion, which is where my finger is here, that's 17 inches. And the hump, like that little arch area to the back, is about 5.5 inches. And then, you know, obviously again, there's some melting here too, so it may be bigger than originally, but it looks like a good solid 7 across, 7 wide. Hi, Mac. Hi, buddy.